previous installments, we analyzed the religious texts of the Yamato and discovered the people who established the state of Japan originated from a nomadic clan somewhere in the eastern steppe. But what language did these people originally speak? Was it related to Chinese, Mongolian, or perhaps Manchu or Tungusic? And why do the Japanese people today speak a language so different from Chinese, Mongolian, and Korean? Welcome to Episode 2, Japan and Korea, the linguistic evidence. The Japanese language was first attested to in written form in the 8th century AD. This is markedly late in terms of major languages. The oldest Japanese text in the Japanese language is the famous Kojiki, mentioned in prior videos. It was written using Chinese characters for their phonetic sound rather than their actual meaning. Given this, early Japanese also has a great deal of loan words from Chinese, further complicating things. Linguists today struggle to categorize the Japanese language, and thereby it is classified as one of the world's few language isolates. However, isolate doesn't mean shown to be unrelated to any other language. It simply means not shown to be related to any other language in a sufficient manner. Given what we know from early Japanese texts, a great deal of Japanese clans, including the imperial clan itself, likely migrated from the Korean state of Baekje. If Japanese and Korean are not related, how is this possible? Were two completely unrelated language groups living in the same region? Unfortunately, there are no extant texts in the Baekje language. However, a single line from the Chinese Book of Zhou, dated 636 AD, may give us a hint as to the answer. Based on this passage and some Baekje words cited in the Japanese Nihon Shoki, many scholars have argued that the kingdom of Baekje was bilingual, with the gentry speaking a Buyo language and the common people speaking a Samgan language. As we may surmise from prior episodes, this language must also be the language of the gentry of Kogoryo and Buyo. This aligns perfectly with the mythic evidence which suggests the same clan that founded Buyo also founded Kogoryo, Baekje, and then Imperial Japan. From this, some linguists surmise the clan spoke a Japonic or Proto-Japonic language. But if this is true, then where exactly did the Korean language come from? One theory looks to the only ancient Korean kingdom which did not claim a Buyo-originated gentry, the kingdom of Shilla. According to the Samguk Sagi, the kingdom of Shilla was founded by refugees from the northern kingdom Gachosun, the Korean peninsula's oldest reported state. Gachosun was destroyed in a war with mainland China around 100 BCE, and eventually was replaced with Kogoryo in 57 BCE. The fleeing Gachosun elite allegedly united several Yayoi chiefdoms in the south, forming the kingdom of Shilla. Linguist Martin Robitz argued the modern Korean may have originated as a hybrid language, incorporating the Austroasiatic language of the Yayoi and a trans-Eurasian element of the northern Gachosun refugees fleeing southward. Perhaps a language similar to Manchu or Tungusic. Japanese, on the other hand, is a language so different from this potentially hybridized Korean that linguists refuse to even classify them together. This begs a question. Why are these two languages so different from one another, given their similar histories? The only answer to this is that somewhere in Japanese, there is a component that is neither Tungusic, nor Austroasiatic, nor Sino-Tibetan. But then what? Linguists have presented many theories on the mysterious elements of the Japanese languages, but these theories are all very understudied and lacking much evidence. Out of respect for empiricism, I will only present some of these theories at the end of the episode. However, we can still gather some hints about Japan's origins by looking at Japanese and Korean word etymologies. There's some very interesting stuff there. What makes investigating East Asian language etymology so difficult is their initial use of Chinese logographic characters. Sometimes a Chinese character can be borrowed or used because the word sounds similar to a word but doesn't have the same meaning. Other times, a character can be used because the meaning is the same but the word sounds nothing alike. Very confusing. Essentially, the only way we can figure out where these words came from is by figuring out what they sound like phonetically and their phonetic similarities to other words and interpreting potential meaning from there. Given this, linguistic etymology in East Asia is very controversial, so everything from this point forward can only be interpreted as that. Yet still, that doesn't mean it's wrong. Let us look at the names of the various clans that immigrated from the Korean peninsula to form key governmental positions in the burgeoning state of Japan. This was all done during the early Kofun period, and these aristocratic clans were known in the Nihon Shoki as the Tarajin. One would assume their names reflect some information about their origin, and we believe they do. There are many ancient Kofun-era clans, but the most powerful clans arguably include the Hata clan, the Soga clan, the Sakanoi clan, and a group of clans known collectively as the Aya clans. Among these, there are the Yamato Aya and the Kawachi no Aya, meaning relatively Aya of the East and Aya of the West. The Aya clans claim origin from a political unit known as the Gaya Confederacy, pronounced phonetically as Karak or Kara. Kara was a group of tiny statelets at the bottom tip of the Korean peninsula, their mysterious origin. According to their myth, the Confederacy was founded and ruled by a King Suro, whose city-state was called Ara. All these words, Kara, Ara, Aya, are strangely reminiscent of Sanskrit words and ethnonyms. Arya, Harya. And there's a reason to believe they may indeed be. Take the following. Legendary Korean King Suro, like many East Asian leaders, was given heavenly origins, a godly founder said to be born of a golden egg. This mythological motif, known as the cosmic egg, is of Proto-Indo-European origin and most saliently derives from the golden egg in Indo-Aryan Vedicism, from which Brahma was born. It may indeed be no coincidence that in the most ancient Vedic literature, the word Sura is a major Indo-Aryan word for God. Famous Suras and Asuras of the Vedas, and Akura or Hasura in Old Persian. Perhaps most directly, however, the Samguk Sagi literally notes the origin of King Suro's consort, Queen Hwanoke. She's a foreigner from the kingdom of Ayodhya. Ayodhya was the capital of the ancient kingdom of Kosala, an Indo-Aryan Sanskrit-speaking Vedic kingdom. In fact, King Suro and Hwanoke's descendants form the origin of the Gimhae clan, one of the most notable and largest noble clans in Korean history. Indeed, nearly 6% of the population of the Korean peninsula has the Kim surname. In fact, the Kim clan's coat of arms features a twin fish motif that's directly reminiscent of the twin fish motif state motto of the territory of Uttar Pradesh in India, the territory once occupied by Queen Hwanoke's alleged homeland, the Kingdom of Kosala. King Suro and Hwanoke are not blips on the radar of Korean history. In fact, King Suro's descendant, Kim Yu-sin, is the general famous for unifying the various kingdoms of Korea into the unified Shilla state in around 650 CE. That's the first official, fully Korean state. The Aya clan of Japan, being themselves descended from King Suro's territory, shows a direct interconnectivity of Japanese and Korean nobility. The Aya clan was also associated with many smaller clans that would have massive influence on Japanese history. One of those clans was called the Sakanoi. The etymology of the Sakanoi is also shrouded in mystery, but the root word Saka suggests, yet again, the strong possibility of origins from the Buddhist kingdoms of Central Asia and India, ruled by Scythians known as the Sakas or Indo-Sakas. Perhaps this Indo-Sakas connection may explain why the Aya clan was one of the two major clans of Japan spreading Buddhism. The other clan being the closely related Soga clan. The Soga clan's ethnonym is itself of unclear origin. As purveyors of Buddhism to East Asia, the Soga clan's origins are very likely more inland. One possibility is a connection from the similarly rendered ethnonym Sogd of the Sogdians. Yet another related branch of Buddhism practicing Scythian Iranian tribes bordering western China. Finally, and perhaps the most important clan of Japanese early history, is the Hata clan, so important that their history is frequently mentioned in the Nihon Shoki. According to the text, the Hata clan claimed descent from a legendary Yuzuko no Kimi. According to researcher Ken Joseph Jr., Yuzuko no Kimi translates to Lord of the Yuzuki. Joseph holds that the phonetic sound, as well as the Chinese meaning behind the character, means that the Hata clan claims descent from the Yuezhi of western China. The Yuezhi, according to researchers, were the last vestiges of the mysterious Indo-European Tocharians, whose blonde-haired mummies, discovered in western China, are now world famous. The exact etymology of their clan name Hata is again a subject of debate. One theory is it stems from the word hada, which means skin, perhaps a slang for silk, suggesting their ingrained associations with the Silk Road trade, dominated by the Scythians. Yet there may be more mysterious connections to this name Hata, which will be presented at the end of the video. The Aya, the Sakanoye, the Soga, and Hata clans all seem to have linguistic etymologies pointing to potential origins from various Indo-European Scythian-descended tribes of Central Asia, suggesting a significant influx into the Korean peninsula of members of a Central Asian civilizational complex. But what about the most important clan name of them all, the Imperial House of Yamato? The etymology of Yamato is yet again extremely unclear, but we do know the following. This unusual derivation comes from the word yama, meaning mountain, and ato, meaning footprints or traces. British Orientalist Arthur Lindsay Sadler contends a more sensical translation would be mountain path or mountain pass. There's several potential ideas as to what this could mean. Firstly, this could be a reference to a tribal path or tribal journey through or over a mountain pass or mountain gateway. The Zungarian Gate is a famous mountain pass in West Asia, known as the Gateway to the East. Another is a potential reference to traveling footprints through mountainous regions in Central Asia, namely the Altai Mountains of the Eastern Steppe. Again, this suggests a traveling clan spreading their footsteps across a range. Though these linguistic connections may seem shrouded in arcane knowledge that perhaps only philologists would ever fully consider, recall episode 2, where we discussed the legendary founder of the state of Buyo, King Yangman, pinpointing his birth to a kingdom in the north. In the oldest Chinese texts referencing this kingdom, the kingdom is written as Takri. Christopher Beckwith contends that these Chinese characters, pronounced in their Middle Chinese renditions, actually provide a phonetic transcription of Sukli, or Sukle, and this is the name of the kingdom of Yangman's birth. If accurate, this is a stunning find, as it seems to indicate that the earliest reputed founder of the Buyo Kogoryo clan, that same horse-riding clan of Namio Igami's thesis, that very same clan that seeded the ruling parties of nearly all Korean kingdoms and eventually the House of Yamato itself, came from the kingdom of the Scythians. This forges a direct link between Japanese and Korean nobility to the royal branch of Iranian Bronze Age steppe Indo-Europeans. Beckwith doubles down by pointing out that the name of legendary Kogoryo king Chumo, himself a parallel to Yangman, is actually a slang name for archer, while the endonym Shkuda used by Scythians during the Bronze Age, is also theorized to mean archer. All coincidence? Perhaps, but there's no other convincing contending theory on this etymology. In fact, most Indo-Europeanists surmise that the Skuda endonym would eventually be rendered Sukla, then Sukalada, then Sakula, and eventually Saka, forming the name of Iron Age Scythian-descended Saka people west of China. Here, Beckwith provides a lineage of these changing terms, including the Sogdian appellation. It's difficult to not notice the fascinating possibility that Yangmeng's home, Sakle, now showcases a missing intermediary name between Sakula and Saka. If true, then the various clan name etymologies and legendary histories mentioned earlier, the Sakanoe, the Saga, the Hata, seem to align rather coherently with a Central Asian Indo-European steppe origin for Japanese nobility. Finally, recall the first non-legendary king of the Yamato that is thought to be a real person, and not a mere memory of an ancestor, Emperor Ojin. Recall that Ojin had a non-ceremonial personal name, Homuda. The name Homuda has no known etymological decipherment in Japanese. It does, however, have a cognate that stems from the toponym in Vedic texts, a holy mountain region known as Komuda, the region from which the Aryan peoples originated. Another variant of this name, Comedes, is found in the writing of Ptolemy, who uses it to refer to some tribes of people living in the land of the Saka. Roman historians also use the term Comadas to refer to the region of Sogdia. Some may argue that these are all distant memories and probably don't apply much to the Japanese imperial class in general. However, look at the 49th Japanese emperor, Emperor Konin, whose daughter is named Sakahito. Hito means person or man in Japanese, so the word literally means Saka person. Or what about the Japanese surname Sakamoto, used by the famous Japanese composer Ryuichi Sakamoto? Well, moto means origin. So this name, although I'm sure it is forgotten by this point in Japanese history, probably originated as origin Saka, or person of Saka origin. So what about the mysterious Japanese and Korean languages? Should we not find traces of an Iranian language in them? One possibility is a wholesale language shift. This is not uncommon in history. Take, for example, the modern-day cases of the Hungarians and the Finns, both of whom have clear Indo-European genetics, but speak a non-Indo-European language. According to controversial Korean historian Lee Mo-sol, the Buyo-Kokoryo clan originated as a Scythian tribe, traveled from the western steppe to the eastern steppe, and assimilated Altaic tribes along the way, later merging with Shang dynasty refugees to form the Buyo state. By the time of Buyo, the Scythian language had been largely replaced for everyone but perhaps the most royal of members. The Buyo clan could also be connected to the Xiongnu, a confederation of chiefdoms near present-day Mongolia that, according to numerous historians, had an Iranian-speaking royal class. Hungarian linguist János Harmada is famous for deciphering Xiongnu words, noting that nearly all confirmed words were of the Scythian language. The second possibility is the fundamental element of the language spoken by the Buyo tribe is far more archaic than we anticipated, perhaps from a language that preceded traditional Indo-European languages and that is not yet well studied or understood. The most unexpected theory in this arena is that by researchers Gretchen Leonhardt and Hiro Karuda, who both make the extraordinary claim that Linear A, the undeciphered language of the ancient Minoans, is an early form of Japanese, perhaps a sister language. Of course, the idea that the ancient island of Crete housed a Japonic-speaking civilization before the arrival of the Greeks is pretty out there, and would demand a lot of explanation. However, Scythian tribes were known to occupy lands just a short distance away in Thrace, so interaction with Minoans is not out of the realm of possibility. We just don't have enough information to substantiate any of this. but I'll make another video if we ever do. For anyone curious about these wild theories, feel free to look up the publications of the academics above. That concludes my linguistic episode on Japan and Korea. Stay tuned for the final video of the series, The Archaeological Evidence. See you there.